Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of what the hell is going on out there in the world today. We are on a Monday, reeling from the world of politics. I can't believe it. I try my best to avoid this, and the whole weekend just nonstop. Like, I stayed away from Twitter most of the weekend. I popped in here and there. Uh, and still couldn't avoid it. All my friends were talking about it. And so, and then everybody else was talking about it around me in the places I was hanging out at. So I wanted to get back to some normalcy. And, oh gosh, this just in. As I traverse the Twitterverse, we've got a little bit of late breaking news. Let me see if I can share this. OC Steve, hail, and Lopter, Demon King of Inferno, hail. It is it has been a fun time for all this past week, and I think 2020 has not let up in any way, shape, or form. But let's share this, shall we? Let's talk about this for a second because it's going to be an interesting time for us as we go forward into the world of movies. Look at that. I was actually tipped off to this in an article by, I believe it's a Hollywood Reporter. The UK cinemas, Cineworld, said that there was an increasing, looming kind of shit happening. Dame's daughter, hail! Back to what I was saying. This looming thing of there's not enough people going into the theaters. Like a dark cloud coming across all of the movie theater business. The exhibitors showing these old movies for $5 just to get people back in. They've had, I think it was like Lord of the Rings going on. You had also Empire Strikes Back. And of course, Tenet and the New Mutants. But this coming in from Regal, the official account, in response to an increasingly challenging theatrical landscape and sustained key market closures, which I think a lot of the I think a lot of the theaters in Orange County, at least in my area, they kind of started opening back up. Anyway, Regal will suspend operations at all theaters at the close of business on Thursday, October 8th, 2020, until further notice. So there it is. I was tipped off to this last week. I know Campia talked about it when he noted some remarks by John Fithian, the head of NATO, the NATO, so National Alliance of Theater Organizations. When they talked about the exhibitors, not seeing a lot of returns from the theaters being open. Don't have any big theatrical releases. I think the biggest one was Tenet, and from what I understand, not a lot of people were interested or impressed with Tenet. People were saying that there was some sound problems. I didn't get a chance to see Tenet because the theater that was showing it had only one seat available, and me and my girlfriend were out, and it just turned into like a big confusion thing because of the social distancing within the theater. Machini, hail! Welcome to the stream. So yeah, Regal shutting down its theaters, but that's beside the point. We're just gonna stop that screen. The reason I came here this morning before that late breaking news came out is because I was writing this article over on Bounding into Comics. Go follow our boys over there. They've got some great articles, and they try to, unlike the mainstream media, try to keep our politics out of it. Try to keep um, our personal and nuances out of it as much as possible. But here we go. I'll share this again. Why is this not showing? Why is this being weird? Gosh. Let's try this again. God. Screw it. We'll just go straight to the article. Mm-hmm. Oh, not that one. There we go. All right, going straight to the article here. Bounding into comics, and you could see pretty much all my shit on my desktop. I don't know what's going on with this damn thing. Anyway, alleged Eternals toy leak provides first look at the film's possible main villain, the deviant warlord Crow. For those of you unfamiliar with Crow, like me, dude, I'm reading this stuff off of like a freaking fandom website and wikis. I didn't have the luxury of the time to go into all the history of the comic book to read about this character. Um, but yeah, this comes to us from a Instagram user Detapia22. I originally got it off of Marvel Studios spoilers on the world of Reddit. So he talks about apparently my pick was stolen and circulated, but here's the first look at what appears to be the villain from the Marvel's Legends, the Eternals Crow. Also the backside of the figure, which no one else has because this is my picture. Okay, so I didn't get the backside, but this is the backside of the picture. When I wrote this story, I don't think I had that source. So Crow, a powerful deviant, unlike any other the Eternals have ever faced over the millennia. Crow's appearance is the harbinger for a global threat. And a bunch of stuff in French and a bunch of stuff in other languages. Cool. So that is the Marvel Legends series by Hasbro. Eventually made it into the Marvel Studios subreddit, Marvel Studios spoilers subreddit. So, going into the description of the character, and look at this tendrils and just this kind of like Westworld's prefab body going on. Here's the problem. A lot of folks. Look at that. Look at that. That's Crow in the comics. That is Jack Kirby influence right there. So that's Crow in the comics, and a lot of folks were not happy with the design. There were some others who saw it as very interesting, but a lot of folks were just not interested in the design. And here's the reason. Uh, Crow being initially introduced in Eternals #1, characters taking on other forms as Rudolph Hendler, Pluto, Satan, and demonic entities. He has a shape-shifting ability, as well as being immortal. Here's the thing. Deviants aren't immortal. Crow is. And the way he hides it from his eternal brethren, or his team members, is because he wants to, he shapeshifts, and he presents himself as a descendant of the original. So generations go by, generations of deviants come and go, but he continues to exist. He has the ability to manipulate his atomic structure. Now, the thing is, Crow has kind of a humanoid figure, and he eventually gets with Thena of the Eternals. And this is what makes Crow an infinitely more interesting character than any of the Eternals. I'm not interested in Black Knight. I'm not interested in Angelina Jolie's character. I'm not interested in Kumail Nanjiani. I want to know about this guy because he's the guy that bridges the gap. So from that, Thena becomes pregnant and gives birth to twin children without Crow's knowledge. He eventually finds out about their existence and at times teams up with Thena to defend the lives of the twins. Because they find out about this existence of a kind of half-breed between Deviant and Eternal. And those kids become the target of, the crossbreeding hate crowd. Which, a lot of folks might have issue with. So, given this is the alleged leak, I write that this is, it's unclear whether this is a final boss mode that we might be seeing. One Twitter user says that he's a shapeshifter, so I think the toy is based off his final form. Another user said that he looks like Groot and Abomination combo together. Reddit user DJ Binding said Crow's a cool villain, but he's getting a major Dark Elf, Steppenwolf, whatever the hell the villain of the Suicide Squad was vibes in the design. Not a fan. They would have preferred something resembling a modernized version of the comic book outfit. That's the problem that I have with all the aesthetic that I'm seeing out of the movie. It's not Kirby. It's not taking from that design. Because infamously or famously, Kirby did the New Gods over at DC, and he just, after the New Gods title failed over at DC, he came over to Marvel and kind of took that same kind of storyline and introduced the Eternals. Same art style, same just crazy, bizarre, Kirby-esque aesthetic. And as I wrote in a tweet, the aesthetic in Ragnarok was beautiful, just bell-worthy, because it was so fucking Kirby. Just colors, just, go over here back to the original design for Crow. This is kind of like the modern comic book take, but you got the circles, you got the lines, you got the patterns going on. See, you got the intricate patterns on Toad there. You got some of the lines going down there too. And then look at his Look at that jacket. Look at that jacket. This is a warlord. A shape-shifting warlord. Anyway, so looking at the Kirby version, there's nothing really distinct about the original design. Looks like a bald dude jumped in a jumpsuit with shades. So they kind of criticize the original design for Kirby. Um, and then, oh gosh, with the new theater closures happening, Disney made a move to move this film all the way to November of next year. It was supposed to appear in February, which means we should have gotten a trailer. We should have gotten more context as to why this design for the Eternals deviant race, at least Crow, was taken. So yeah, that's what I understand. The tinfoil hat part. The tinfoil hat part is Crow and the Deviants are essentially, how do I say it? Anyway, I'm reading through the history of Crow and the Deviants in particular. Uh, the Deviants are geneticists. They're also considered mutates. I put on my tinfoil hat and I go, what could Marvel do to introduce the most popular franchise out of all their cookbooks? Like, more popular than Captain America, more popular than Iron Man. Because Iron Man and Captain America were like C level, maybe at their best B level characters. Thor, not even C level, I don't think. I put him at the D level. And now they want to bring in these F level characters. F level! Eternals was not that popular and is not that popular with the modern comic book consuming crowd. In the 90s, I was not talking about fucking Phastos and Cersei. I was talking about the X-Men. I was talking about the mutants. I was talking about Genosha. I was talking about, Magneto, Professor Xavier. What the hell was happening with Wolverine in his comic book? Those were the glory days. Oh, the glory days. I sound like an old man. We're not going to talk about what they're doing in the comics with those characters right now. I'm not getting into the X of Swords. But here's my tinfoil hat. And it's going to be complete speculation based off of what I've seen out of the description for the Deviants and how that could play into what Marvel, Disney, has just bought. Thousands and thousands of years ago, the Deviants do some genetic experiments and they create Apocalypse. Or somebody. I don't know who the Egyptian one is. Maybe fucking one of those guys creates Apocalypse through genetic experiments. And there's a battle between Apocalypse, which at that time would be Ensabanur, and a conqueror. I don't know. Am I too much of a tinfoil hat here? Let's read some of the comments. Get into the. Yeah, so Regal is shutting down until further notice. I think they're. Next year they're gonna wait and see. Like they did the experiment with the two movies. They did New Mutants. They did Tenet. Tenet was not making as much as they could have made. By the same token, freaking New Mutants just bombed. I don't blame people for not seeing it. It was, it could have been better as a home release. You would have gotten a little more money if you did the home release, I believe. Um, but yeah, oh gosh, Marvel sitting on completed films till 2021. Probably will have nothing to show if conventions open in mid 2021. So yeah, that's the thing too. What are they going to show in December? Are they going to show if they do the LA Comic Con? What are they going to show? What are they going to do? There's no media being shown or made right now. They have completed episodes, they have completed shows, they have completed movies. Um yeah, none of that's going to be into play. Let's see. Yeah, doing some Hulkling level material in this. Oh God. When the biggest selling point of the film is the first gay kiss in the MCU, you know you're in trouble. Dude, that movie is gonna be horrible. It's going to perform horribly. And you know they're not gonna sell that in China. They got that. They got Gemma Chan in there, who was in Crazy Rich Asians. They're trying to break into that market. The gay kiss scene is going to be 2 seconds. They'll just cut that 2 seconds out just for China. Stunning and brave. No, what they need to do is do it like The Handmaiden. Just full on, absolute. Never mind. Anyone seen The Handmaiden in here? Anybody? Nobody? That's I only watched it for those few scenes. Oh gosh, foreign films. I think it was made by the same guy who made Parasite. It is. You know that scene in Bound? You know what scene I'm talking about. It is like that times 20. Um, you can hardly keep yourself in because of the amount of action going on. Oh gosh. But yeah. Now I know it's not canon. It's not canon to make mutants a byproduct of deviant genetic experimentation. It is not canon at all. Um, Here's the thing. I think the other option is they could be the ones who create the Terrigen mists to divide up humans. Because humans. So you got the Eternals. Gosh, here we go. I'm going to get into my lore bending here. The Eternals were an offshoot of humanity, and the Deviants were an offshoot of humanity. One superpowered, one kinda less superpowered. One became the perfection and absolute image of beauty. The other, not so much. They were called mutates. They were malformed, deformed, and from what I read, they end up becoming kind of like a food source for Celestials at some point. Um, Eventually they die out, and it doesn't get into what they do as geneticists. I mean, they create other monsters to fight against the Eternals at some point. But that's the thing. It's just like, okay, well, we're going to create this race of things that look like us. They will battle against the freaking Eternals. Okay, here's the thing. They could go the Terrigen Mist route, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already introduced the Inhumans into the MCU. Will they just write over that? Here's the thing. There's two options. They could completely revamp, reboot, because my man over there, Kevin Feige, does not like Jeff Loeb stuff. He doesn't. I don't think he wanted to do Ghost Rider with Diego Luna, because that would be acknowledging Jeff Loeb made some good decisions and made Ghost Rider into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess it was season 3. On top of that, he would have to acknowledge, like, the Daredevil. He would have to acknowledge the failure that is Iron Fist. I don't know. I do not know. He could go that route, which is completely revamp. Or he could go the route of, you know what, this had to exist too. With all its flawed storytelling, with every hole that's in every plot of everything that was ever made by Jeff Loeb, we have to include that too. I don't know if I'll respect him if he goes that route, because it's kind of lazy. But it is a pain in the ass to try to reintroduce everything else too. So I don't know how I'd feel about that, Makini. It's just like, it's a rock and a hard place. And fans on either side of the fence of those two arguments will be upset whatever route they take. I wish there was an easy answer. The easier answer would have been Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. never existed, and they can just introduce those properties and those characters willy-nilly. We could have gotten a cinematic Daisy Sky Johnson, Quake. We could have gotten a cinematic Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes. Avoid the nonsense Inhumans TV show. It was trash from the start. Dude, when I saw Gorgon just walking into the ocean. This is the second episode, by the way. When I saw Gorgon walking into the ocean, looking for, I forget who he was looking for. I wanted to forget that show. And then they shaved fucking Medusa. Like Ensign Mount in the first episode, maybe 2 episodes, him doing sign language, it was a little interesting, but then after that, it just fell apart. Oh my gosh, everything just fell apart. Medusa walking around in plain clothes, holding up people with a gun, no power over her hair. No regal authority. Gosh. Anyway. I personally felt that Netflix shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. were a part of the MCU. They just missed opportunities to integrate the great aspects of them into the larger universe. So here's my other tinfoil hat. Yeah, MCU is ignoring the Netflix series, so reboot them for the film. Here's my other tinfoil hat. You noticed how Avengers Tower was missing in all of the background shots of the Netflix series, but they did talk about events that happened in New York. They talked about Cap losing his shield. They talked about uh, the big green guy. What if, here we go, tinfoil hat time again. What if the Netflix series, hails from another reality? Another reality that is adjacent to the one that was presented in the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. And that was an offshoot reality after Hulk took the stone away from from the Ancient One. Yeah, another timeline. Another freaking timeline. This is tinfoil. Super freaking tinfoil hat. Adjacent. Like, honestly, you could say that the Netflix characters do not exist within that Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline. But guess what? They exist over in this Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline when the stone is lost, when the stone is taken away from the Ancient One. You could do some better writing to kind of justify their existence, but that's you know, or like, yeah. Just reboot any material from Agents of Shit. Nonsensical weed and garbage that can be cut out like cancer. So the first season, before all of the troubles that were happening, the squabbles that were happening between Kevin Feige and Jeff Loeb. Before all of that happened, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of in line with what was happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We saw Nick Fury in a couple of episodes. We also saw a gosh, what was her name from Thor? The first two Thor movies. Jamie Alexander. I forget her character. She's part of the Warriors that assisted Thor in many of his conflicts. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can't write that off so easily because of Coulson. Here's the thing, Coulson's dead in the movies. But then again, you could do alternate timeline. Yeah, because of what they did. Because of what they did in Endgame. They could write off anything, essentially. They could say, alternate timeline. Lady Sif, yeah, thank you guys. Lady Sif, yeah. Lady Sif looks great if she looks to the side, but when she's looking straight on, it kind of gets lost. It's just like, you gotta know your angles. But Jamie Alexander, that's just still the bell. Anyway, so yeah, you introduce Ghost Rider and then reduce his time on the show for budget constraints. Dude, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was operating on pennies of a budget. And to get the graphic team on that one is just, I think. Here's the thing, they got to reduce the time. They got to reduce the episodes and increase the quality. That's how you do it. You increase the quality, reduce the episodes. You tighten up the storytelling so you don't have a lot of chewing up of time in the show for ridiculous bullshitness. That's usually, soap opera and very uh, daytime TV. You take those elements away, you tighten everything up, you compact it, and you deliver it as a package to the consumer, and we get everything. Lickety split. Boom, boom, boom. This is what's happening. This is the action. This is the result. Got it. Let's talk about it as we wait for next week's episode. Huge revelation in this episode. Let's talk about it. Boom, 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 boom. As a shit show as The Boys has become on Amazon Prime, from what I understand, people were still talking about it week by week. Like, there was things to talk about. This week was a very many things to talk about. So, yeah. But yeah, Ghost Rider, just budget constraints. You could easily get rid of the budget constraints by tightening up the content. In the first season, where it started to get better was the whole Winter Soldier tie-in. And that's when things changed for Marvel, in my opinion. Winter Soldier, where we could look at a movie and be like, holy shit, this is going to Heat levels of intensity. Heat, which was taken as a serious heist film by Robert De Niro, and it had Val Kilmer in it. Yeah. But that highway fight scene, god damn. That was some work. That was some fucking work. People don't like to credit Chris Evans for a lot, but he put in some fucking work to get that scene going. And that, unless they did some face doubles to do a lot of the stunts, he was actually doing the fighting. Because you can't put a mask on him at that point. You gotta put Chris Evans in there. You can certainly put a mask on Sebastian Stan or his stand-in and get the same result. Coulson never interacts with the Avengers after he died. Trim the fat and move on. Only the Weed and Soy Boys care. You play once more and feeling soundtrack twice a week. Yeah. And the death of Coulson doesn't resonate throughout the rest of the Avengers film. It's just like he dies, and the Avengers move on, and they do their thing. Not even mentioned. And this dude was in every single fucking film prior to the Avengers. He was the guy that was there to set all of this up. Yeah, he was in New Mexico for Thor. He was in the first Iron Man. Did he show up for the first Captain America? I can't remember. I know Nick Fury did. And I know Clint Barton was in New Mexico as well as Hawkeye, ready to take out Thor if he needed to. But yeah, Coulson never interacts with the Avengers after he dies. Trim the fat and move on. Yeah. So the shows. Here's what I hope they do with the Disney Plus shows. They trim the fat. Mandalorian has a lot of fat that they need to trim off. Mando walking through the desert. Mando walking through a facility. Going through the explanations of a plan or some sub-story that I'm not really interested in. It's just like, trim the fat. Let's get to the action. Let's get to the stuff that gets us involved into what's happening in the story, the backstory, the overall overarching arc. Yeah, I'm not sure what they can do at this point with the Eternals and that fucking problem. That fucking problem. How did we get here? Oh, the Inhumans. Okay, so the problem. Mega Jetty, hail. So yeah, it's a problem in the MCU. We've got these properties that they have to address. They are going to eventually bring up Ms. Marvel. They cast Ms. Marvel already. Some chick I've never heard of and Hollywood has never heard of. A a girl who did not like Captain Marvel the first film. Thought Brie Larson was great. I thought about writing that story and I was like, wait a minute. It's kind of dumb. Like it's kind of a dumb thing. Like she expressed her disinterest in the film, like like we all did. It just wasn't a great film. But she loved Brie Larson because she's contractually obligated to like whatever Brie Larson says because that's her character now. Anyway, yes, Coulson should have interacted with the Avengers, especially in Infinity War and Endgame. If I had my tinfoil hat on, yeah, that should have been the case. But unfortunately, the tinfoil hat says also that it might be another reality that they're tapping into. Another timeline. Um, but that's neither here nor there now. It's all gone. It's all gone, folks. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has taken a turn for the stupid, which is to put out the Eternals. They're going to put out a movie about a character who died 2 films ago, because we're going to count Endgame, we're going to count Spider-Man Far From Home. Uh, why can't Marvel just strip Kalamala of her hero name and put Carol back in the Ms. Marvel suit? Optics, gender politics, racial bias, you know, the things that make America great. Um, yeah, but they're going to come out with the Eternals, a property that really didn't do much for Marvel, nor did the New Gods do much for Marvel in that same sense. It's a grab bag. They don't have much to grab. They have the mutants. They have the fucking mutants. They have the Fantastic Four. Now, tying the Fantastic Four into everything that's just happened is going to be a little bit more tricky, in my opinion. But what they could do is just forget all of that, take a break from all of it, and just do the X-Men. Everything involving the X-Men. Create that just separate reality with the budgets that you've put into Captain America and Iron Man and fucking Avengers Endgame. You do that with the X-Men and you end that fucking 10 years of movies with Dark Phoenix. Or no, don't end it with Dark Phoenix. End it with the Phoenix Saga. We've had enough Dark Phoenix. End it with the real fucking Phoenix Saga. Something that Kinberg never thought about doing. You build up the Starjammers. You build up the whole of the X-Men franchise from day one when they began as students under Professor Xavier. They get kidnapped and imprisoned in a island nation of Krakoa, which ends up being a living mutant island. Assemble a new team to go after them. have Thunderbird die because he's so stupid and won't listen to anybody. Get Nightcrawler properly introduced as a as a swashbuckling Roman Catholic. Get Beast in there properly going through the changes where he becomes the Beast that we all know and love. Get Storm in there going through all phases of the aesthetics that she goes through. Just do it right. And then we will, even though you are corporate overlords and just beasts at trying to snaggle up properties, we will appreciate the fact that you do right by the X-Men. We'll appreciate it. All the tie-ins that are happening, all the crossovers that are occurring with the X-Men right now. I just don't. It's not needed. It's not needed. I want someone to Mutant Superman to come along, supporting Xavier and leading the X-Men, and for him to call Magneto the Hitler of mutants. That'll tick him off. Fucking heck. But yeah, the tinfoil hat ultimately is, I think the Deviants are going to be the ones to introduce mutants into the world. Because they are geneticists, they are also mutated. There's going to be some long-standing feud against the Celestials, so they're going to want to create a race of superpowered beings who are also mutated and deformed in such ways as to kind of go against the flow of what's happening between them, because they're mutated, but not as powered as the Eternals. You get what I'm saying? Just like an opposite end of the spectrum for humanity. And then it'll be some big lesson about, you shouldn't be treating us like how the humans are treating the mutants right now. Look at what they're doing. But these mutants are powered. And you are powered and abusing us. Just some big virtue signaling thing. It's gonna move away from the comics, much like the aesthetic is moving away from the comics. And then OC Steve was talking about how it was more like Gaiman's run. I am not familiar with Gaiman's run. I'm hardly familiar with Kirby's run. I read a few issues, and when you get into a book and it's more of a labor to try to get into it rather than as smooth and as spreadable as butter, warm butter. I get into Lord of the Rings. It is just cover to cover. I am in heaven, just floating up on the river and going to whatever destination that book takes me. It was a snap to get through that. The Hobbit was a little more of a setup book. A little more of the rough butter, but it was still kind of smooth sailing to get to those 3 books. Harry Potter, same way. I got through the first book, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to get into the second book because I went through this one really fast. Other books, Dune, it's a labor. It's hard for me to get into it because there's a lot of stopping points where I have to think, where I have to try to figure out what's going on. Another book, Neuromancer. It's a book where I have to think and try to figure out what's going on. I have to visualize in my head something very complex. And because I don't have the visuals in front of me to think about what that thing should look like, it becomes more laborious for me. Yeah, the problem with X-Ray and Dark Phoenix is they both jumped right to the Dark Phoenix saga and ignored the Phoenix saga. That's what I'm saying. So you do 10 years of films leading up to the fucking Phoenix saga. where Jean Grey has to do some do some do some work, because we all saw the animated series and they did that justice, dude. They gave Jean Grey a fucking voice in that one. Before, um, I'd read the comic books, but I wasn't deep into the comic books. I was more into it for the art. When I watched the television series, the animated television series, Jean Grey's involvement of it was she was just a love interest for Wolverine that just couldn't happen, but she was with Scott. And she was also the target of Mr. Sinister's genetic experiments because he believed that Scott and Jean could produce genes that would be beneficial to him. Fast forward to the Dark Phoenix saga, Jean comes into her own. The subplot with Wolverine being the focus and all of that just drops to the fucking floor. And it was refreshing for the show just to, like, you know what? We're not going to focus on Wolverine for this arc. Wolverine's going to be in it. He's going to be part of the team. This will focus on Jean, and this will focus on Scott trying to lead a team to help Jean. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, the Shi'ar do have a history of prejudice. Maybe they should see Earth's attitude towards mutants and learn from it. Yeah, it's no Coulson in the first Cap film. Yeah, okay. I was trying to remember. See, that's recent. That's recent comics. That's not 90s. That's not the era that I grew up in. Um, so might get a new Mando altogether. Fett is coming back, and Timothy Oliphant is in it as another Mando too. Yeah, so it's Mandalorian's another subject altogether. I am not sure what's going to happen with that show. We're going to find out. I think we're going to go back to reviewing Mandalorian as it airs. It's going to be me, John, and probably Spencer. We all see the damn show and we all talk about it. We might even get Script Doctor in on it, see if he's available. I know he was with us last time for season 1 as we talked about it. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing to see, because if Grace Randolph is right, we should see a shift in The Mandalorian about mid-season. We'll see. Ignore the Inhumans. Talk about another show that just refused to do anything Kirby. Like, it went to IKEA, bought the cheapest shit it could find, and then threw it all together to create this ball of shit. Yeah. The X-Men fit into the Eternals narrative. Humans with genetic material to have powers that gets unlocked over time. They could do that. They could do that too. I think it's going to go more the genetic route. Because they keep teasing it. They keep teasing the X gene. Not as a development over time, but something that can be manipulated. You saw that at the end of Logan, where something was introduced into the food supply, where mutants just weren't being born anymore. It eventually became a population control thing. Let's see. I know. I mean, I totally assassinates Jean's character. Then again, Wolverine in the X-Men show did that too. Jean flirted with Wolverine right in front of her boyfriend. See, I didn't watch Wolverine and the X-Men because it became Well, it's the title, Wolverine and the X-Men. It's like, why name a show that? Just say the X-Men. I'm not a fan of Wolverine getting all the spotlight. I'm a fan of Wolverine, just as I'm a fan of Nightcrawler, just as I'm a fan of Multiple Man, just as I'm a fan of fucking Xavier and Cyclops and Rogue and Storm. They all have equal share of limelight in my mind, in my fandom. I like all the characters equally. I can't identify with all the characters equally, but I can identify with certain aspects of what they're going through, what they feel, what they understand, what they see in the world. I can understand, I can feel, I can empathize because I've gone through some of the same shit. That's what made X-Men a great comic book, because it touched on things that we deal with as we go through this, as we go through adolescence, number one, because it was a thing about transition from being a child to being an adult. But ultimately, it talked about life, social interactions, what we experience in the world that we're living in today, uh, in allegory, in metaphor. Um, yeah. And then, yeah, Brie Larson cannot rock the OG Miss Marvel. If you see her recent, oh gosh, I might be attacked by Brie bots. If you see Brie Larson's latest video, you know she ain't in any shape to be rocking that OG suit. Oh gosh. Time Warp, they are the Fantastic Four from the 1960s, hit with cosmic rays. They go through a wormhole and end up in the modern time. Okay. There's a problem with that too, because that was a idea that I heard from everyone's favorite person right now, Movie Bob. Bob Chipman. He posited that one, and I think he took it from a fan site or a fan fiction about how they could introduce the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's about, okay, they find a space shuttle emerging from one of the rivers up there in New York, the Manhattan area. And then one of the older characters remarks, "Oh my gosh!" And then they could probably do like Hank Pym saying something to that effect. And then emerges from the space shuttle a rock fist busting out the panel. And unfortunately, it's like it's a great idea. It's a great idea. They would have that Mad Men aesthetic and sensibility. They would be kind of like fishes out of water. The idea exists. It's out there in the ether. The problem is if they steal that, that fan fiction is going to get a ton of traction. And there might be some problems with trying to secure rights to using that story. Um, uh, oh. Also a fan of Jubilee. Yes, because in the show she was the image of what we go through in adolescence. I was an adolescent at the time, feeling a lot of the same things that she was feeling. Alone. Going through changes she couldn't understand. Feeling displaced in society. Shit, a lot of us who read those comics probably felt the same way. She was invented Mary Sue in comics, but in the 90s, show turned her down. Then Evolution in films had her, but did nothing with her. Yeah, she was kind of a letdown because she was kind of she was a symbol of the 90s. Big old glasses with the yellow jacket and the blue gloves. Just couldn't do anything with her because that was her iconic look. And you know, now they could. What was the thing? What was the thing she became in the comic book arc, The Crunch? She was palling around with Wolverine, and Mojo was trying to prevent the end of all things, just to keep it going. And then he had enslaved Jubilee, but it wasn't Jubilee that, like, Jubilee was facing an enslaved version of herself, but he called her Abscissa, and Abscissa was able to carve out, like, segments of reality. It was a weird power, and it was just super OP. Um, but she was slave to Mojo's demands. I forget how that comic book ends, how that arc ends. I think eventually, at the end of all things, Wolverine makes it happen because all of creation has a beginning and all of creation has an end. Was the moral of the story there? And without an end, everything just spirals into chaos and further chaos, and it needs this end to begin again. You know, it was a deep story. Again, a lot of metaphor, allegory. Captain Carol is either a scroll or a messed up clone, tarnishing Carol and Marvel's names. Kamala should find the real Carol, and they take down Captain Carol. Carol resumes being Miss Marvel. You know Bree's not going to sign on to that, right? She is I'd like to say she's a narcissist. I'd like to say Brie Larson is a narcissist. A lot of people who accuse leadership of narcissism, Brie Larson is narcissist, in my opinion. She's had the golden spoon in her mouth and up her ass all her life. And, as soon as this COVID thing hit, she didn't know what to do, so she created a YouTube channel to continue to have that golden spoon, that silver spoon of opportunity shoved in her face and in her mouth. The only problem is she's on a platform where it's not so much golden spoon, silver spoon, honey. Oh yeah. That's uh but yeah, the only thing I'm looking forward to is the introduction of Rogue and Rogue just putting Brie Larson in a coma. That's the only thing I'm looking forward to. I can't. There's a thing where in Endgame, Thanos pops the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and smacks Brie Larson to where you don't see her for the rest of the film. I know there's a lot of folks who are just like, oh gosh. Anyway, dude, I'm gonna get a bunch of Brie bots on this fucking thing, and they're just gonna whatever. Anyway, well, thanks for joining me, folks. This has been fun. Talking some tinfoil hat shit about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what they might do with the mutants. Like I said, Crow might be an interesting character for the Eternals. More interesting than any of the fucking Eternals. I'm actually interested in the villain. He gets with Thena, who I believe is played by Angelina Jolie. Knocks her in the arm. Favorite part. That's my favorite scene. I think there were a few people in the theater when that happened that just went laughed, just laughed. Uh, Despite all the seriousness that was going on, because it's just like she takes out this ship. There was no reason for her to be in the scene at all. Like it was just that stupid interjection of women being powerful. Uh, Scarlet Witch, we'd kind of been in the movies with her. We kind of saw the development of her character, the development of her powers. It made sense. Carol just went in as a fucking badass, bat out of hell, and showed herself as a badass. Helped out during the, I guess the little A Force tease part, and then just fucking gets knocked out of the screen. So much for women power. Pimp slap ultra combo. Oh yeah. Captain Marvel go like this. Rogue starts villain, absorbs Carol. She undergoes a change, then Carol wakes and tries to kill her, and people side with Rogue over Carol, and Carol dies a villain. What was that quote in The Dark Knight? Is die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. If she didn't die in Endgame, that should have been the fucking thing. So yeah. You know what? Mega Jetty. I will have to take a look. Dude, I try to watch live streams and I try to get some time in for other people in the Fandom Menace and Comicsgate and just all these other creators who have a YouTube platform. I'll have to open up a tab then. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. I'm gonna have more of these up. I'm trying to work on some like pre-recorded videos to show, just to try to get that going again. It's gonna be a while before I get the Rumors and Spec back up and running because the camera that did it decided to take a shit on me. So I will get a new camera and then I will get to recording some pre-recorded videos and you'll be able to see my face. I know it's been a while since you've seen my face because I'm intentionally doing that. I wanted to see what kind of facial structure changes happen after so many weeks of doing this P90X thing that I've been doing. So we'll see. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Jeffrey Turner, a.k.a. Mega Jetty. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Harvey Dent, the Dark Knight. Yes. OC Steve, Lopter, Demon King of Inferno. If I can highlight the last thing you said here. Yeah. James Dosher. And the wonderful Makini90. So OC Steve, you have a channel. You do a lot of the Neo Japan wrestling content. I'm gonna shout it out here, and you know what? I should just put your guys' YouTubes on here too, so you all know where to go, who to look for, and you got OC Steve. Copy. Paste. Boom. All right. And then da 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 Mega Jetty. Copy. How is it, Mega Jetty, that I have to subscribe to you again? What the hell? I have no idea what's going on with this stupid thing. All right, and then da da da, and then for my man Makini90. Um, I love his draw streams. As somebody who does a little bit of art on the side when I can, I appreciate seeing the process of what Makini brings to the table. And so yeah, guys, follow each other, help the fandom just grow, and then we will rise together. You know, as they say over in the over by Stephen Walton's little clique there, which I'm a part of. But yeah, we rise together, guys. We help each other. We support each other. We watch each other's streams, and we go into the chats and the comments, and we kind of build each other up in this community. We are our only help in this time of just weird Hollywoodisms and people just denigrating us because we have opinions and we think that our content that we are consuming should be better. And at some point, we've got to stop being consumers and we got to be deliverers. We got to be producers. And I think that time is now. And yeah, YouTube's been unsubbing people for me, making it harder to reach 1K. Well, that's why we're supporting each other, dude, because it's YouTube's doing what it can. YouTube is doing what it can to make it harder for us to get our content out there and to reach more people. And we, you know, but we're going to reach it. We're going to reach more people. They can't stop us for long because we're growing stronger day by day, and we're putting out more content, and we're putting out more of ourselves into this platform. And Hollywood's going to be absolutely scared of what we've got coming around the corner. They've got to be because we're the only ones making stuff. Anyway, and then we'll be making some really good shit very soon. By very soon, I mean like within the next 5 years, probably. But very soon, we're going to see some jumps, leaps, and bounds being explored by us. Things we've never thought of seeing before. Kai MFS, another brother from Orange County, he just had a book come out. Oh, just let me fucking do. Let me do this. He just had a book come out. Let me post this for you guys. He had a shout out on Gary's channel. Space Crime Domino by Kai MFS. My man, he is probably lives across the street from me, and probably lives across the street from you, OC Steve. Fucking anyway, but yeah, a lot of us in the fandom are just saying, "Fuck it, we're just gonna create our own shit." So that's what we've got. Kai is making moves to get away from the current Hollywood platform. And he's making his own shit. And I encourage you guys, do the same. Support those who do the same, and we will rise together. Anyways, thanks for joining me again, and we will see you this Thursday for more shit. Take care.